The talent is not bad. I was promoted to wife in 2 years. I'm afraid it will be difficult to regain the imperial power, even at the age of 18, coercing the empress to marry her own son. That's why she summoned Shouting over. And it will definitely be embarrassing to chat with at that time. Xiao Tian fell into deep thought when he heard the news. And looked at Shouting, covering his face. My brother thought that Xiang Tian was really scared. Some people are afraid to chat and should abide by the rules. But if you don't want to, of course I will block this matter for you, even you alone. I can't even keep the river beach. Keep the big words left by my father and 2 elder brothers. And the one in front of me is no longer an adult. The empress is a lonely little girl. Gritted her teeth and clings to the inheritance left by her father. Shouting shook her head, playing with the wine glass in hand. Anyway, with His Majesty tied up in the court, he can still grow meat while chatting. It's still a charming jazz who indeed summoned a useless man from the film and television industry to be his father, in order to let the man give handing in homework by himself. He took off his clothes and lay on the bed. But the man dared not do it from the hole in the ground, saying that it was halfway through dinner. The woman went back to deal with the memorial, and left first. Taking dinner, after the dinner, she and Liu Yi finally insisted on sending Xiaotian back to the palace. Mrs. Shouting sensed that someone was following him, and guessed that this person was sent by the Prime Minister, so he came here. It was moving, but it was raining. In the astonishment of the 2 women, Xiaotian returned the slave in his hand. It's all over, you see, it's all taken. You must know that a contract can only represent a constraint and a way. Shouting is so casual. In the end, I couldn't help but ask Xiaotian in a low voice. Xiaotian casually said that this thing often. It made me very uncomfortable. So I changed it to a different position, and finally my mind went blank because of exhaustion. Why is the prince right? My shocking actions are always said so lightly. But the 2 of them are powerless to refute and have no choice but to say, follow Xiaotian behind. When entering the palace, the man in black behind him retracted his figure and ran towards the blessed place. When the 3 of them entered the palace, Nakabayashi can't stand looking around anymore. No one asked Xiaotian quietly if he planned to beat Liu Haoshan to death directly, said that he will definitely attack you in the court. If you do something at that time, wouldn't you be powerful? Paul Xiaotian is speechless. I'm idle. Why is Zhongling going to continue persuading Zhaoting district to attack imaging at night? Shouting came to his head with a chestnut. Do you have the same head as you when you are an empress? I just said that Liu Haoshan wants to target. And now go watch. Looking at the soldiers in Zhongling, Liu Yan secretly said, the major general is small-minded and arrogant. And no one will accept it. Now being suppressed by the prince is really one thing and one thing. Waiting to return. In the palace, Xiaotian stretched his waist and lay down on the chair. Asked Wang Kai to continue to play Ultraman's blockbuster with special effects. And let the 2 of them, when falling in love according to the old rules. The 2 showed some strange body temperature afterwards. Which is exactly what Xiaotian did for the 2 of them. Tailor-made body training skills. Not to mention this posture is really good. After the 2 of them finished and left, Xiaotian himself was also practicing. After a while, he suddenly noticed the movement outside. So he came to the gate of the palace curiously, and saw the great momentum of the empress walking over here. What else is the prince doing? Please tell me as soon as you enter the palace, and go straight to the country. And at the same time tell those. The maids all retreated into the house. The empress directly tested my bed, holding a book in his hand. He read it and saw Shouting standing there all the time. He couldn't help but ask, what are you doing in a daze? Don't you take a break? Xiaotian took off his coat stiffly, then lay down beside you nervously, seeing Xiaotian who reacted like this. The empress found this guy quite interesting. But after the lights were turned off, the raindrop said slowly, don't go this way. It will often happen. Come to sleep over you like this. It seems that it will eat you. Stop. Zhang's family said that this is the 2nd time to sleep in the same bed with a girl. I'm just a little nervous. The money is, as a killer. What he loves so much is that a woman will affect the speed at which he draws his knife. And he hears a woman's voice the second time. I can't help but improve a bit. Who is the first time? It was also the first time before His Majesty went to Beijing. The Empress's expression eased. Make a big fuss. The first time and the second time were also on you. Xiao Tian smiled awkwardly, thinking he wanted to make a big fuss. It's you. You did speak again. And you're wondering why you're going to court to save face. If you don't want to, I won't force loneliness. The room for words is also personally felt because it is the same. Although it grows inexplicably mature, maybe there is still some. It's a misnomer, but I have a family in a way that I feel like at least we're not alone anymore. Although I can't help you, but I will accompany you to face that position. Hearing Xiao Ting's affectionate words, there is room for Kong, shining with a different kind of brilliance. He once again met Xiao Ting's eyes and got acquainted again. Smile. Hello, my name is Xiao Tian. The second type of ministers gathered outside the palace, and soon after, Xiao Tian and the Empress walked away slowly, came over and saw Song Xiaoting beside the dragon chair. Knowing that it was prepared for himself, for a while, he stood beside Song Yi in a daze. I did it. I'm not you. It's a bit embarrassing to do this. There is room for Xiao Tian to not do it. Can't help but ask why it's nothing. It's just that the room for the chair interrupted Xiao Ting's words, and immediately ordered someone to send a message. Immediately, 2 little eunuchs brought the Grand Teacher's chair over. Zhang Feng stopped arguing and found out that he was secretly blinking at himself. Xiao Tian immediately understood that he just wanted to tell the ministers that His Majesty favored me. It must be well coordinated. So Xiaoting casually got used to it and hid with Erlang's legs crossed, active for a 20. The expressions on the faces of the ministers in the audience were also extremely wonderful. The Empress naturally turned a blind eye to this and asked the eunuch to announce, Ben Qizhuo has no capital to retreat to the Prime Minister and chat with the first one, expressing that he has something to go watch and chat with the Empress's monarchs and ministers. Compared with Xiao Tian, he found that the Prime Minister is still a capable minister. It seems that the Deng dynasty can have today, and the Prime Minister has contributed to it. I can't help but click tut a few times. I'm not afraid of being ambitious, I'm afraid of being ambitious and capable. It seems that Zero can regain power from the ground. There are many difficulties, just at the end. There is a nice voice that suddenly raises the level. Can Wan Xiaoting does not match. Corrupting Chao Gang and charming Your Majesty. Please tell me that other than Prince Xiao Tian has an excited look on his face. This is the beginning of the fun. Just when the atmosphere was solidified, you slowly opened your mouth. Prime Minister Xiao Tian is my answer. You say anything. Your coercion broke out. -1 entered Shengjin's grasp of strength, and all the officials were shocked for a while. But he looked disapproving of this, only to see him suddenly bowing to the smoking veteran, congratulating His Majesty on his cultivation and progress. Follow him, the voice sounded. And the Empress' coercion was dispelled invisibly. The Empress did not speak, but stared and chatted silently. Can easily diffuse my coercion. His strength is better than I imagined. Let's talk about it after shouting. Continue to create His Majesty Xiao Tian. Prince Xiao Tian, as by Xiangfu district, should have the talent of the world. But he is doing some nasty deeds to compete with the people for profit, using His Majesty's name to act mischievously. Hang out with Zhang Ling and Liu Yi all day long. And even the Minister of the Household Department has become a... Isn't his cook corrupting Chao Gang? So I have feelings for Xiao Tian? A pair at the side blushed with anger, even dragging their own daughter into it. If it wasn't for being in the hall, follow the old guy and talk about it. This is the central government, you can get it from the sidelines, Your Majesty. The Prime Minister sent the prince to renovate the winery and give an emotional speech. The most important thing is to build bridges and build roads. And the Prime Minister may not know that you are full of praise. For the Southern Xinjiang University, it was planned by the prince. And I was only acting on behalf of you. You all know that I am an unfilial girl with a perverse temper. Only the prince has improved the distribution of food and drink in Kinglian town, and his majesty intends to let him guard the prince. Is there any problem, I want to ask? A prime minister and prince who is knowledgeable and talented is not worthy of impeachment. Where did the corruption of Chao Gang start? Zhang Yang's famous question seemed to be pointed at Liu Heotian with a sharp sword. Even the news quietly to the central, putting up a thumbs up. Liu Heotian didn't see any panic on his face, but let Zhang. If there is no evidence, how would I know if you did what you did to love Xiaoting? The ministers also whispered about the name of Jin Zhangzhang, who was counterattacked by Liu Heotian, and the whole person was a little confused. How to answer now? His voice came over. And you said Zhang Shangshu has no evidence to prove that these things were done by me. And the prime minister did. Evidence to prove that these things have nothing to do with me. Obviously the chat has been prepared for this, since neither Zhang Shangshu nor I can convince. Who might as well just watch him take out an ancient book, which is the inheritance of ancient sites. The prince might as well see it in Liu Heotian's hand for a while. Ancient books, your face, the process of yelling loudly. What are you going to do? Xiao Qian saw the reaction of the other women. Can't help but wonder, isn't it just a book? Can I still show myself to death? Then Xiaoting asked if I let the king read it. The empress daughter-in-law beside the question suddenly stood up. I can't read this book. Xiaotian ignored his wife, but stared at Liu Heotian. Why not mention the process first? If you let me see. I have to see that the emperor of the Yuan dynasty is not you. Let's chat. Don't forget to confirm me when you hear this. Let's chat. Be loyal to your lord. I am his majesty's teacher, so I naturally have to take care of it carefully. The prince can't even bear this test. Could it be that you are just an embroidery needle, teaming up with Zhang Shangshu to deceive the top and the bottom? The crime is so heinous. Xiaotian can't help but shoot the case of Liu Heotian's most impassioned words. Good guy is pretty good at hats. Because to crack this not cancel the weather in time. Makes a small like what I said earlier in the big fish to be reasonable, but you are now. Is there any reason for the proposed test? Use this ancient book to test whether you are worthy of his majesty. I can't understand it. If you pay this life and understand it, the prime minister won't lose any lottery. Isn't it too unreasonable? Liu Shaimei is really in a hurry, Xiaotian. Don't mess around and talk about it. He hasn't finished talking, and he sleeps soundly with his backhand. It's impolite to slap your face when an adult speaks. And a child by the prime minister. How did you teach your son's imaging? You stared at your son fiercely. How did you know that you almost broke your own father? Ring quickly turned around and knelt down to the woman, begging his majesty to punish Xiaotian. Seeing that the idiot son of the master's family calmed down so quickly, it seems that the father and son are not easy to deal with. Don't forget that Tim knows that he has to come up with something if he wants to get this kid on. K2 then took half of the underwear left by the late emperor as the lottery head, and also gave 3 million spirit stones as a gift. Congratulations to your majesty on the newlyweds. I will be happy after a while. I want 5 million, if there is no such thing. I will not agree to do it quickly. Ding Xiaotian directly doubled it by 6 million the next day. And the interim king Xiaocan. To this king, thank you in advance for your temporary congratulatory gift of 6 million. Let's be happy and take the ancient book in Liu Heotian's hand. Seeing this shock, the base rushed to tell Xiaoting not to be self-willed. But Xiaotian had already opened the ancient book casually. After a while, Xiaotian put the bones in his hands. Why did this scene directly make the traitor's expression change drastically? Chatting and laughing lightly? Shake your head, prince, look like I hate. You are not blessed to enjoy it, because once you open this book, you must see the last step to understand. What kind of books do you give up halfway? Just when everyone thought that Xiaoting was going to die, Xiaotian flipped through the book in his hand again. There are some opinions from standing, but I saw Xiaotian went back, sat back on the chair as if nothing happened and continued to watch. Everyone was stupefied. Xiaoting saw that everyone was looking at her with horrified eyes. She inadvertently had a weird face. Said, you are looking at me. What are you doing? You are busy with yours. I am looking at mine. Even the woman asked a little weirdly, "Is there anything uncomfortable about Xiaotian?" Depressed daughter-in-law blinks her eyes and discharges her promise to give you the congratulatory gift from Prime Minister Zhang. God, Zhang Ling and Liu Yi were the only ones in the audience who exchanged glances and knew it was going to be like this. What about this perverted prince? Something may happen. The next day, I was completely stupefied. I watched Xiaoshu, and nothing happened. Could it be that people without cultivation base would not be influenced by ancient books? Watching Xiaoting keep closing the book. There is room for a monk to act like a normal person. Finally let go of the corners of his heart and mouth. Can't help but go up, as if declaring his victory. Being different is especially extraordinary at this time. Xiaotian is holding his forehead with his hands, looking like he is too tired. Thinking about something, but he is actually thinking about it. My head hurts. This thing is as sure as a ghost drawing talisman. It is something written by a person. He can feel that the book is constantly. There was a force coming from it. It was numb and numb. Like giving yourself a full body massage, but it was quite comfortable. So I asked Wang Kai, what is the power in this book? I only listened to the system to answer that it was the power that was protected and prohibited by the ancient gods. The existence that can obliterate the strength of time and grand scenery is only because your body is too strong. Xiaotian didn't expect that this thing was really not written by a human being. In the summer, I asked the system to translate for myself. But the system said that the translation would cost 37.6 billion and the task points needed only by completing the tasks of the system cadres. Can we get Xingzhang? The entertainment cannot directly translate for me. But the system says that according to his, the setting must have mission points. Xiaotian twitched his mouth and put it on the Grand Teacher's chair. My words have already been released. If you make me lose face, you know the consequences. After hearing this, the system fell silent for a moment. And then the system actually made something. What shocked even Xiaotian was that this book has to be eaten every day in the hands of a man who is available to the strong and powerful, but it is played wantonly and even used as a book. The electric massage directly shattered everyone's 3 views. When the system heard Xiaoting's words, it was silent for a moment, mirroring Xiaotian. Awarded a task, the director can complete the task by resting on the chair for 1 second and get 99.99,999 thinks that the next thing to come is the reminder of the completion of the task. And Xiaotian-san passed on the ancient books together. Only then did Xiaoting smile. I have to put pressure on you to solve the problem next time. Improve the total dog licking system immediately. He apologized and said that he would continue to improve. At this time, Liu Haoshan looked at the ancient books that Xiaotian obtained the certificate. Opened and closed, and thought it was Xiaotian. You can't help but speak when you are mocking yourself so angry that your mouth is crooked, but little frog. You understand this book, so don't look for it. It's a ridiculous excuse like a fake book. Xiaoting stood up while holding that book and laughed a few times. This king doesn't even bother to talk to you. Playing this kind of lady, running along with the progress bar. The ancient book suddenly burst into a dazzling golden light, inheriting the golden minister below. Immediately exclaimed, even the empress stood up in shock. And then looked at Liu Haoshan with a smile when he gave the order. Inheritance of human beings, ancient books, today's Lord Prince. If he unlocks this kind of talent, he should be able to catch the eyes of the Prime Minister. Right now Liu Haoshan still doesn't. It is true that the Golden Book of Inheritance has appeared. But the news network has not yet accepted the inheritance. Liu Guang is a stranger. Xiaotian's Mixin slap is too timely. One day I can't wait to find a hole in the ground and get in Xiaotian. At this time, he walked slowly towards Liu Haoshan and threw the broken book in his hand, which had become a waste, at Liu Haoshan's feet. What do you have to say now? Could it be that Prime Minister Liu wants to play tricks on you now? Don't find ridiculous books that are probably fake books as an excuse to chat. He was so angry that he was trembling because of this sentence. He said with a dark face and a low voice, "It's not the prince who only has 6 million spirit stones. Don't let it go, and take the secret medicine in the other party's hand for the crown." Thank you, Prime Minister. Xiao Tian picked up the jade pendant in his hand and said while drawing, expressing that he was full of anger while chatting, but still keeping calm and speaking in a muffled voice. It is His Majesty's property. What is the process of thanking you for returning it to its original owner? The king is talking about the boat. 6 million snacks originally. I only wanted 5 million. But I didn't know that the process seemed to be rich and powerful. So I wanted to send an extra million. He clenched his right hand and stretched it out in front of Liu Heotian. Many doctors stretched out their thumbs. Thank you. You are a good man. We need to talk. The corner of the weather's mouth kept twitching, and there was room to see almost holding back a smile, telling Xiaotian to stop John. When the Prime Minister is ill, no one will send congratulatory gifts, in classical Chinese. Many ministers covered their mouths and laughed lightly. It seems that His Majesty followed. Prince learns badly. We all know that opening the mouth hurts the chat. So we can only pretend that we don't understand. Thank the Empress and say that the gift will be sent in the afternoon. Then I will. I also want to thank the Prime Minister for generously donating money, and then I waved my little hand. If there is nothing wrong, then I will retreat from the court, and then I will leave while being sent off by the ministers. After leaving the main hall, all the ministers also walked out of the palace. People from Liu Heotian's line were looking at the sensitive people in the center jokingly. John left Xingting disheartened and walked directly to Zhongming, saying that today was a big victory, and go into your house for dinner tonight, at this time. Some ministers said that I and a woman are full of praise for Xiaotian. These words of praise are naturally very useful to Xiaotian. With a wave of the big hand, one person, one flick. The young woman. When is the time to send someone to the Zhongshangshu's mansion to hear the 3 ministers? Excitement. Thank you to shouting. When everyone left, Xiaotian looked at the jade pendant in his hand, the 6 million spirit stones. That guy can't find it. This excuse is bad. I shook my head a bit and said that I will do it if I said it 2 days ago. The most curious baby finally couldn't wait. What's the matter with the ancient book of Q&A? That makes people die suddenly. What is the name of that ancient book? Liang Ning. The person who wiped out the grand scenery of the world and its strength. Wiped out the Xingjing of the period, and Liu Yan asked the stock in surprise. What is Protus? Dong Xiaotian is very surprised that you don't know. Liang Yu Kiki shook her head and said she only heard one group and finally asked again. Xiaotian, is it helpful for you to keep reading the book to get the inheritance? Xiaoting casually said that it was, because the static power massage is very comfortable. So I keep flipping through the books. Guanshu Liang Yu silences again and kills the power of the Bible to use. Massage Prince, please be your own person. Shaimei signaled to find someone to chat with Xiaotian, but she looked at him coldly and said that now the matter has come to an end. A person with no cultivation base broke the big event, and finally let Liu Shaimei release the news that Xiaotian had inherited the golden color to herself. It's not easy for them, and they don't want to be comfortable. As soon as the screen turns to the imperial study, Xiaotian feels separated when he sees the mountains of memorials. There is a lot of room to show that, if it weren't for Liu Heotian's ability to share most of it, you probably wouldn't be able to see Jin Xiaotian at this time. Fortunately, I am a soft ear. Otherwise I would not be exhausted. And then told the sky to the Empress that Liu Heotian had 6 million. You have already entered the arena. After listening to it, you took out the other half of the jade pendant. You didn't want the jade pendant, and you got it back from Liang Heotian. One that can be merged into overalls, hidden in secrets. Contains a lot of wealth left by the Emperor. Zhenjiang needs to be handed over to you to take care of the palace treasury. Anyway, I have something to do, so the court will have no excuse to say that you are idle. Isn't it good not to do things? Xiaotian immediately pointed to the meaning of the cigarette clearly. His eyes lit up with excitement. It's really great to be Xiaotian's general, in conjunction with the jade pendant. A wisp of aura suddenly emerged, wrapped around Xiaoting's body. The jade card itself is also aura. It has a protective effect to keep you safe. Register early and work hard. Don't let Liu Yan move all the hard work to the warehouse. What's the matter? If you like it, you can choose some snacks by the way. If it doesn't exceed 2,000,000 yuan, there are still a lot of places to spend money, Xiao Tian. At this time, Xiao Tian brought Zhong Ling and Liu Yan to the truth, besides the imperial study room. After working so hard, I brought the things I brought from my previous life into that house. And then came to the pants shop. When Zhao opened the door, everyone was dumbfounded. Liang Yu behind him was also sluggish. He doubted the state of life. Xiao Ting lamented his own. My father-in-law is really simple and rude. There is nothing to eat here except snacks. The snacks are too much. Xiao Tianrong. Leave a message to say hello. Let him see how to deal with it, and then smoke jongling again. If your father sees this, will he faint? The clear plan in the... I don't think my father at least hasn't been with each other for so many years. How could he pass out because of this? And when the empress comes over and sees this, the snacks are also stunned. What's more exaggerated is that Zhong Shengshu, who came with him, actually passed out. Xiao Ting shook his head towards Zhong Ling, shaking his head. Your father covered his face and couldn't bear to look directly at it because of the Chinese. After Yao Ming woke up, he danced with excitement. Speaking of which, the empress naturally let Xiao Tianji's hero let go of the authority, so that he can take as much happiness as he wants temporarily in the future. Just like this, stop and make a temporary bed sheet directly. After Xiao Tian fell asleep that night, a leaf opened between Xiao Tian's eyebrows and a golden light shone. It is the golden light of the banyan trees in the sea that converges towards one place. After a while, an old man with a sharp forehead appears from the golden light. The old man looked around suspiciously. Could it be Shihai of the human race? After some investigation, he found that he really appeared in the human race is Haina, the most humble amount of money at the moment. How could the human race get the inheritance of the god bead, and then he would? Hearing a voice, after analyzing it, the spirit of the inheritance of the ancient gods is responsible for teaching the aura of inheritance knowledge. When he looked up, he found a tomato was floating in the air. But the next second his eyeballs almost moved, and he said that there are more stars in the sea than souls. The stronger the physique. The ghost tomato actually has 3,000 stars, compared to his 99 stars. He's a scumbag. He asked him in horror, who are you? This place should not be the place where the corpses of the human race are. I am Nuope, the master of Wankai. When I was there, it was indeed the owner, the sea. Why is it so noisy? Is it clean even after sleeping? This is a slightly lazy one next to it. When the voice came, the old man was numb when he saw the person coming, and he fell to his knees in fright, because he could clearly see, behind the soul of the man in front of him, is not a little bit of starlight, but a vast starry sky. Wankai reminds the old man to stay away from Xiaotian. Don't accidentally be obliterated by the master who just woke up. The old man, the protagonist, backed away frantically when he heard this. Xiao Ting asked what the situation was. So Wang Kai explained to Xiao Ting what was going on. The old man turned out that the ancient gods looked like this. The old man immediately put on a very humble posture, always thinking about how to set up Xiaotian. In other words, maybe the revival of the ancient gods is expected. Zheng Xiaotian suddenly leaned over and asked what he was thinking. As soon as the old man was about to say something, Xiaotian angrily accused the old man of your guilty conscience. If you are not of my race, your heart must be different. You will be in trouble. The boss is very bad. Wang Kai is the one who stopped talking. Wang Kai rushed over half of the old man's body in an instant, being swallowed by the system. The old man pointed at you in disbelief. Xiaotian, you were speechless for a long time. What is wrong with this guy? If you don't follow the routine, how can there be a bit of dignity of the strong? Stop coldly and snort, as I expected. The eyes are full of resentment. Apparently, after the treachery was discovered, he became angry from embarrassment. The spirit of the inheritance of the Protus has only such a brain. Hearing what Xiaotian said, old man, he was so angry and aggrieved that he opened his mouth to curse. But before he finished speaking, he was swallowed up by the system. And then Xiaotian, Taoist priest Xiaotian, was a little excited. when he saw the display on Tomato's head showing that the system was being upgraded. This thing can still be upgraded. A man in black on the roof was looking into the house. After making sure Xiaotian was still asleep, he charged at Xiaotian with a dagger in his hand. The neck was slapped hard, but the moment of contact. The four callers stared at the dagger in his hand in horror. Xing Xing opened his eyes at this moment, and the assassin came, staring at him in surprise, asking what the other party was going to do. The cold sweat on my face, I didn't do it on purpose. Can you believe it? At this time, there was a guard's voice outside the door. And heard something happen inside? What's the matter, little patio? Climb up them, don't come in, say. Just accidentally knocked something over while making them leave a message, too. Shouting over to Xiaotian. This is picking up the ears on the ground and giving you the fragments at will, turning them into a ball. The assassin next to him is indeed too busy. But what kind of monster is it? This is the best spiritual energy in the 6 realms. And he said that he just slumped on the ground. In my heart. The 11,000 points in the intelligence department are not ordinary people. Liu Yan walked in. Shouting said that this guy used a short knife and a rubber band himself. Then asked His Majesty if he had noticed. Xiaotian breathed a sigh of relief. When he heard the movement here, and there was no movement, he left a message and looked around. Didn't notice the dagger in his mouth. Xiaotian spread out his hand to reveal the iron fist in his hand. When he broke me, I was bored and played with it. I gave it to waste recycling, so I should be able to sell it for some money. I stayed in the hospital and found this. It was just such a small lump of snacks. That sold hundreds of thousands of snacks, easily wrote Xiaotian's reward. And then came to the assassin. It looks like you should be losing Yingshan Ghost's lower limbs. Hand over the assassin league. This sister has good eyesight. Is the villain walking on the ground? It was all a misunderstanding before. And then I explained to Zhou that I was here to grab a stone and ended up with myself. I caught the wrong person. Xiao Ting was silent for a moment and turned to look at Liu Yi. I think this person is treating me like a fool, Liu Yan sighed. Just accept your fate. Your Black Soul movie is unlucky. And it fell into the hands of the prince, and you are nostalgic. Feng Mengyi reminded him of this. I read that the old man came before. And suddenly he pointed at Xiaotian in horror. You were the king of Hades. He never thought that the charming little boy in the eyes of everyone would be the one who caused a sensation in the entire continent. Yan Wang suddenly shouted loudly, Little frog, you are Yan Wang. He wants to spread the news before he dies. The shovel is in existence beyond the way of heaven. But in order to be able to be the wife of the empress in the world, he is willing to be everyone, in order to improve her quality of life. The waste in her eyes uses superpowers to find herself a top chef. Now not only some people want to destroy its soft rice sound. Even his cook was kidnapped, in this live talk recording. It is said that after Pang Meng learned that Xiaotian was the king of Hades, he tried his best to bring this. When the news got out, I panicked, and what if my daughter-in-law heard about it? Then I just watched him. The scene of tearing apart the space with bare hands and sucking in Peng Meng's voice completely overturned his cognition. When he regained his composure, Xiao Ting grabbed the blogger and couldn't make a single sound. So we hurriedly and secretly called the Prime Minister to stop begging for mercy. But Xiao Tian thought he was just provoking him. He sighed helplessly and threw the door into the room casually. Put your hands in the space crack and put the torn crack together. To solve the problem, Xiao Tian asked Liu Yan to see if the Empress is still alive. If there is any movement in the Imperial study room that disturbs him, he will indeed leave a message and report with a smile like shouting. Before leaving the palace with the general half an hour ago, His Majesty asked himself to tell the prince that he might not come back tonight. Xiao Tian, don't wait. Then let Liu Yi and the two go back to work. Xiao Tian continued to lie on the temporary bed and decided to let the central government do some work tomorrow. It was delicious to make up for the sight I received tonight. So I went to sleep happily. The next morning, Zhang Ling was in my front yard, worrying around anxiously. At this moment, Zhang Lishuang rushed in with an anxious expression on his face, hurriedly asking if there is your father in the city. However, Zhenling said that he had searched all over the city, But there was no news about his father. Suddenly, a voice suddenly fell into the government. The mother and daughter immediately became tense. And they were relieved when they saw that it was the Empress. Dr. Joe hurriedly asked, "What's the situation?" But the woman just shook her head. The doctor fell down and sat on the ground. His eyes were full of remorse. "Last night, we should quarrel with her and drive her out of the room. Otherwise it is impossible to be taken away. The weakest guess is that Yangming was taken away. In all likelihood, it has something to do with the matter in Nanjiang. It is related to the fact that Nanjiang will be under the auspices of the Central Hub next month. There will be a lot of secret scriptures lurking. People can still sneak into the palace without knowing it." The face of the doctor of traditional Chinese medicine turned pale suddenly. His knees softened. He knelt down towards Zijian, begging the woman to be her husband. Yu Kai hurriedly supported Zhang Lishuang, said that he would bring Zhang Yang's name back, and then told Zhang Ling to be optimistic about her mother. Once again, all living beings condensed and drove in the direction of the Black Soul store. On the official website to watch the Ruyan leave, Dr. Zhou was worried that this was an enemy. The plan to tune the tiger away from the mountain. So I finally told him to stay at home and then go around to look around, leaving only Zhongming alone. Squeezing and squeezing, suddenly his eyes lit up. He thought of Xiaotian. So he turned into a fiery shadow and rushed towards the palace at this moment. Inflammation in the palace according to Xiaoting's request. During training, suddenly saw Zhongling rushing over to see him. Hastily left a message asking what's the matter. Famous said directly that my father is gone. This sentence directly confused Liu Yuan. Soon Zhongling came to Xiaoting's bedroom, and at this time, he didn't care about Xiaotian's sleep, so he quickly woke Xiaotian up. Xiaotian asked in a daze, "Why did you come so early, your lord?" "My father was taken away last night. I haven't found it until now." After hearing this, I woke up and asked excitedly, "You are my cook. Being taken away." I was very flustered to note that I was flattened. "So that my father will not treat you as a brother, you will treat my father as a brother." The cook looked at Zhongling's strange expression. Xiaoting was a little embarrassed. "Make a mistake." Then he stopped and lay on the bed again for a while. Then suddenly jumped up with a look of horror on his face, saying that I was taken away from my brother. Seeing the girls around, Liu Yan was speechless. Seeing this, Xiaoting stopped joking. After getting off the bed, she said, "Who is so bold?" The fact that he dared to capture Liu Yan, Shangshu of the household department in the imperial city, reminded Xiaotian that there was also a daring guy last night. Sneak into the palace and attack you. Xiaotai rubbed his chin and fell into deep thought. "Why are you aiming at me when you hear this?" You look at Xiaotian with a puzzled face. "Think carefully about the time since I became a lord and prince. Every day is nothing more than eating something delicious and drinking some wine. No one has provoked anyone, Mr. Black Soul Shop. The old man who whitened me, the young maghead, came out of nowhere and thought it was just a coincidence, but now that it's really like this, maybe they were there. I found some clues about me in the office building, so I came here on purpose. There are so many people in the dynasty. They don't agree with the Prime Minister Liu Haoshan who kidnapped Zhang Mingming. Why must they have discovered Zhang Mingming? I have the best relationship, so I have reason to suspect that this kind of analysis by the geniuses of Black Soul against me will make Zhonglin and Liu Yan. Kiki is rude. They really want to say, Mr. Prince, you really think too much. In the eyes of others, you are just an ordinary person who would come aiming at you. Xiaotian continues to analyze at this time. His Majesty has already gone to the Black Soul Shop. If he sees me when I make a move, it will be exposed. Are you tired from time to time? If there is something wrong with the shangshu in my hand, I will never be able to eat good food again. Why is there always tricksters want to harm me? Xiaotian gets angrier the more he thinks about it. No, this is absolutely not possible. I have to beat them to death. Calm down, slowly hang in the air and bow. Looking at the dumbfounded Prime Minister, he was assured that he would definitely bring it back. So he turned into a shooting star and flew away to Zhongling at this time, still in a state of confusion. I thought it would cost a lot of money to persuade the prince to make a move. But I didn't expect him to give it to himself. To appease him, he turned his head and looked at Liu Yi. Is it possible that His Majesty the Prince is too sensitive? Maybe His Majesty has no place to call for money. He always misunderstood that others wanted to persecute him. And suddenly he finally had some sympathy for the Black Soul, Southern Dynasty and earthquake searching while flying. If it's out of range, if you rush in, it's tantamount to tearing your face apart. So he thought in his heart that this is a terrifying explosion. The voice kept coming from behind and getting closer. He looked in the direction of the voice with a serious face, but he still didn't understand him, seeing a figure clearly. The oscillating airwave swept past him in an instant, and he hastily stretched out his hand to shake the ice cold. The longsword is turned into frost in front of the show. The program lays down the airwave, and after a while, a sword light is seen. The painting Han Guang chases after it. It only took a moment to go up, and even the shadow of the other party could not be seen. He looked in that direction solemnly. So strong. Who is this strong man? Soon he found out that it was the direction of the Black Soul. In an instant, he thought that that person could be the king of Hades. Decided to catch up and take a look. At this time, a formation in a certain valley suddenly shone brightly. In the next second, a character from Hunan was brought. The most extroverted people in the formation that appeared under the name of the central government knelt down on one knee when they saw the man. At this moment, there was no resistance at all, and he was carried by the world to a large hall. He looked up and down this huge palace. But is this the headquarters of Hangdian? After entering the center, one staggered and fell to the ground, and the lower world cupped its hands to report to the man in front, my lord,